And this looks like a little notebook that you could have bought in a little boutique store. Here's my collection of planners and planner covers. So I want to try to find something that fits me right now and then also isn't too big. This is one of my first TNs when I first learned about them years ago. There's so many happy memories in here. But I do know one thing. I don't really care for the long, let me see if I can find one. I think one of these back here are like the long, narrow ones, like the original Midori style traveler's notebooks. What I do love is these are, I think most of these are Foxy Fix. And so I'm going to grab one of these. I'm either going to grab this one. I also have, I think this is my daughter's. It probably had stuff, yeah. This was her little book. And so I also like this one, but it's a little bit bigger. Don't mind my shoe there. So you can see the size difference. I don't know what the sizes are, but I think this is the size that I want to go with. I think I want something that is smaller that I can just throw in my purse and go. Oh, well, this one already has notebooks. So this must have been a sketchbook. So that was from 2019. I'm not sure. But some of my books have gotten like these marks. If you know how to get rid of this on leather, let me know. I think it's because I've had them here for so long and they're, they rub up against each other. I have another one here that is similar, but it's lighter. This one does not have pockets, so I'm going to go with the darker one. Oh, and the darker one's a little bit smaller. So I think we're going to go with this, and we're going to put it together. Did I say that right? We're going to build it together. And I'm going to show you how to do it without having to go out and buy any kind of inserts or anything. We're going to make our own using some copy paper, but you can use cardstock. You can use vellum. I mean, there's so many things like you saw in this one. This is laminated. And then this is vellum, or not vellum, acetate. This is a piece of vellum. And so it's just really nice to have all different types of stuff in there if you want to, I think this is vellum too, if you want to kind of go above and beyond. But if you want it to be simple, you can just leave it with the plain materials. So let's head over to my desk. I also got a few things over at Daiso, so I wanted to look at them with you. I got this yellow masking tape. I thought it was really pretty, the color. It's probably going to be a paper tape, like a washi tape, and I think this will be a lot of fun to use. I got this pencil because I love like big, fat mechanical pencils, especially if the barrel is fat. Just for comparison, here's like a regular pencil next to it. So you can see how much bigger or thicker this is. I got this as well. I've never seen this before. It says it's a sand eraser, and I looked it up and it looks like it will do pencil and ink. So we're going to see if this really works. And it said ink like any type of ink. So we'll try this out together. I also got just a couple of little stamps. Let's see that one. And then that one says thank you. And those are for my ACEOs. I also got this one, which is a monthly scheduler. So it looks like it has the months all together and then like regular paper at the end. These are some of my favorite notebooks. These must be notebooks that kids maybe use in school because they're definitely have a purpose. If you have never had a campus notebook, it is such a treat. The paper is very smooth. I wish I could show you. I don't think there's any way to show you, but it's like very, very smooth. It writes like, it takes ink lovely. It takes fountain pen lovely. It even takes watercolor lovely. So I got that one. I got this one, which was lined paper. I got this one that was another grid type of notebook paper. And then another grid that was a little different. It has these fun numbers at the top. So my original idea with these was to possibly have them for using inside of my junk journals, like for layering, but I'm not sure. And then this one was for writing and maybe keeping a journal. But since I've decided to go to this pocket notebook style, what I'm thinking right now is maybe we can cut this down to fit inside of here. And the same with this. Even if it's a little smaller, if I can get 2 out of here, that would be great. And I don't think this is going to fit unless I do the larger one, because you can see I found this notebook, which I wanted to show you guys, but this might fit the blue one. And if not, it'll definitely fit that big one that I showed you a minute ago that that I made by hand. So I'm going to put you on a tripod so that I'm not wobbling this. Hopefully it's not too wobbly with my hand. We're going to go through this and kind of come up with a plan of how to fill this notebook. I'm going to move these papers out of the way, but this is a new kit that will be coming soon, and make sure that you're staying tuned for the flip through of that. But my Patron members actually got it already. So if that's something you're interested in, it will be linked down in the description bar below. And if I can, I'll put a QR code here so you can point your camera at that and it'll take you directly to the link. I'm actually going to grab this notebook and we're going to decide what I want this to do. So this is the first step that I would do if I was creating a pocket notebook. We don't want to like overcomplicate anything. And so I know for sure I want one booklet that is for planning. It's not going to be a structural planning, but it is maybe more like to-do lists. So I'm going to write here to-do list. What else could it be? It could have a calendar. Now you're going to see, I have no idea how to spell calendar. I spell it wrong all the time. Calendar. We'll see. I think that's right, but I don't know. What else? I'll leave a space there. I would like another one for maybe sketching. I could add here maybe also like a commonplace. I think I'm going to stick with these 3 as we start, and then we can always alter it and expand them and make more. But that way we're going to keep it pretty simple. So the other thing I want to do, housing this side as a kind of inbox. And then also we have these little pockets that I think would be fun to kind of decorate. And I know I want to make a folder and possibly make a like zipper pocket or card holder. And I'm going to actually look through my stuff and see if I already have any made. And if so, I'll just add it. This isn't all stuff that has to get added, but this is kind of the things that I want to keep in mind while I'm creating this or while we're building it together. So I wanted to go through this one really quick and show you kind of what I had. I love this paper. I think it's from, oh, and this is like iridescent paper in here. It looks like I laminated it. This is, I think, from Michael's. This looks like Maggie Home paper that I made into a folder. If I can remember how to do this, I will do one of these. And if that's something that you're interested in, leave a comment down below and let me know. And we can do that together. And then this looks like it was like a daily, like maybe Hobonichi, where I had started plopping some colors down. Does this even say what? Yeah, it was 2019. Well, we actually moved from Florida to Michigan around that time. And so I think everything for me, like kind of, paused. And I'm going to look through all of this and see what will fit. So this looks like, this is just a little notebook that I made. And like I said, we're going to make one together. And this was just labeled lists. And it's a blank notebook. There's only one page. Looks like it was used, so maybe I can reuse that. I have this one, which looks like a store-bought notebook, and this was for health. Okay, that looks like it was like maybe CrossFit stuff. This was don't. Okay, so this was macros. Then another, you can use these for writing. So you can use these as dashboards, so you can put sticky notes on them, you can put paper clips on them. You can also use them in between your pages, so you could pull it out, and while you're writing, let's say if you're somewhere where you don't have a desk and you're using your lap, you could put this underneath and it gives you a stable place to write. So I'm going to pull that one out. This was another one that was just a notebook, and it literally didn't have anything written in it. I have no idea where this came from. When I bought it or whatnot. So I already looked at this, so I'm going to show you. So the Midori systems, if you don't know, come with these elastic bands. In this case, I have 4 in here, but that's not really a limitation. I can show you how we can add more than 4 books in here. And what you do is you take the center of whatever book you want, and then you thread it through one of the bands. And that's your notebook. So I think this one kind of goes over the edge just a little, but I'll allow it. I'm okay with that. And so I'm going to use this as well as a template. And my template I'm going to make using some copy paper, because I think that'll be like the most pliable. I also have these charms that I made. And this is just using some elastic. This I think I bought in Michigan at a journaling store. I feel like, I think it was already done. I'm not 100% sure, but I love this thing. I love all the knickknacks. So let me grab a piece of paper. And since I had said that this was a little bit bigger than what I wanted, I want to make my other booklets a little bit smaller. And I think somewhere here is okay. I'm going to fold it, but before we cut it, I want to just see what that looks like. I mean, that looks, how did I do that? You guys saw me fold it. Okay, so I think because of the thickness of it, I want to make it a little smaller. I was thinking that it looked almost the exact same. So now we'll look at that, and I think that that's more of where we want to be. I think that the height on this was good. We'll go a little shorter again. Go here somewhere. The more bulk that you add, then the more stuff's going to stick out. So, for example, this book is so thick, and so, you know, when you lay it in here, it looks like it's fine, but when you go to close it, it like pushes out. And you know, if you do journals, then you know that that is something that happens a lot. And I'm just using these measurements kind of as temporary. They're not set in stone. And I'm going to run it through here. And so you can see when it's like this, there's plenty of space. When it closes, it is almost butt up against the edge. So I think this is good. Let's do it with this one. Oh, this one might be half. Okay, that might work. Actually, that one, I like that tape. I'm also going to grab a metal ruler so that I don't cut through the plastic. Let's measure up 5 inches, and then we'll mark here 5 inches, kind of towards the middle, and then again on this side. And then I'm going to run a line connecting all these. So on this part, you're going to want to be careful because you're going to be going through a lot of pages here. And so I would suggest, I said this, I think, in my last video, I suggest on this part you stand up and then you go very carefully because you do not want to have any accidents. You don't want the blades to slip. And you're going to go through several times because you have so many layers. So I think I'm going to do this off camera just so that I can focus and be safer, and I'll be right back. And then I want to cut it also so that we're here. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to make this as my guide. I'm just writing myself a note so I don't forget. And then I'm going to use this as straight edge. There we go. And this took about 7 tries. So I like to have the blade sticking out some, and then I'm going to hold my pointer finger down on the blade to give me a little more stability. You also want to keep your blade butt up against the ruler as much as possible. Now this makes it a little easier because the pages are coming off. I'm just going to move them out of the way, the ones that'll come off. So there you have it. And then I'm going to keep this over to the side because we could always use this. We could also use this to make another notebook. But here's our little notebook that started off as a big one. And I think this is really cute. I love grids. So we have this one. We have this one. Now let's make one out of copy paper. So I went ahead and used this. I opened it up and I went ahead and just estimated what I thought, I rounded it to numbers that I would be able to cut. And then I used 5 sheets of regular copy paper. And so that's now going to give me, because I was able to use 2 or cut 2 out of 1 sheet of paper. So this gives me 10 sheets of paper. And if you know from journaling, this actually gives us 10 times 4, because we have 4 sides for each paper. When you fold it, you have the front, inner, back. So we have 40 pages, which I think is plenty. I think 30 would be good, but I went ahead and just went with whatever I had. And now what I'm going to do is actually fold these all in half individually, and then I'll stack them inside of one another. And then we're going to decide whether we want to add some stitching, which I think we can do that. It's pretty easy. You could also leave this completely unstitched and it will still work. I find that the easiest way to measure something in half is to, sorry, my husband just got home and the dogs are out, so they're running around, is to line up your corners on your edge and then take your finger to the middle, and then from the middle crease up and down, and that should give you the best measurement with your paper sitting still and not moving. And I think I'm not going to use my bone folder either until the very end. So now we're going to nestle each one into the center. You can do it on the outside too. I'm going to show you something with this too. I don't think we're going to notice a huge difference because we're using copy paper, but if you were using anything that's thicker than a copy paper, you're definitely going to start seeing a difference on the edge. Your papers that are in the center are going to stick out further than your first paper. And so if that's something that's going to bother you, then at this point, I'm just going to make sure those are all stuck in the center. We're good. Then at that point, you could take your X-Acto knife again and cut off the excess, but you can see here it's very minimal. Now I do want to give this a cover because we like pretty things, and I think that when you make things pretty, it makes you want to use them. So I think one of my new florals, and I would do the same thing first. I would cut this down 5 inches here and then 7 1/4 up here. The other step that we could do here that would be really pretty is to round our edges. Let's do that on this one. You could do that with your notebooks as well. I love both. I love these flowers. They're one of my favorites. There's some pieces in this kit that are my favorites that I cannot wait to start using. This is the first time I'm using any of it. And now I'm going to grab my pokey tool. And I think that this is screaming to me to use. One, two, three. And I'm not going to make a template or anything. I think that because this insert is small, I think that we don't need to give it too much fuss. I'm also not going to measure anything since it's one go through. Oh, I do want to poke my holes out. Look, I was already breaking my first rule. That is always bind or like hold your papers together. They will move. Let's go here. If you've ever sewn through leather, then you know this. We're just going to make our holes first. I'm just going to estimate where the center is. Oh, and someone gave me a really great tip in my last, or one of my last videos, and she said to, instead of having the center be centered, to lift it a little higher when you're doing a template. So I'll have to remember to do that next time. Okay, we now are going to decide if we want our thread on the outside or the inside. If you want it to show it all, then you want to do it on the inside, because on the outside it's going to get, you know, covered inside of our notebook. So I'm going to go in through the center hole. Then I'm going to hopefully go all the way through. There we go. Through the top hole. And then we're going to skip that center hole and come out the bottom. And at this point I want to pull. I want to hold my hand here to hold that in place. But before I do that, I actually want a little bit more thread in the bottom. Okay. Before we tie, we make sure that everything is tight. You wouldn't imagine the amount of times that I thought it was, and then I tied the knot and it wasn't. And I usually just do 3 knots for good measure. And now we have our little notebook. How easy was that? And look at how pretty it is. I mean, this looks like a little notebook that you could have bought in a little boutique store. So now we can round our corners. I'm going to see if I can find my corner rounder. Let's try both. Let's do one side, 1/4 inch, or yeah, I think it's 1/4 inch. This is actually 1/2 an inch, and then let's do this one 1/4 inch, and then we can decide which one we like better. So this is definitely more pronounced. I think I'm going to go with the 1/4 inch on this one. I think that the subtlety of it would be cute. Should I? Let's go with the 1/2 inch. And I'm not going to sit on camera and do this the whole time, but that's what it's going to look like. And look at how sweet that is. It's just taking the notebook up an extra level. You definitely don't need to do this part. I'm going to go ahead and go off camera, punch all of these out, and then I might go ahead and punch some of these out. I think that that would be cute too, especially since we have like kind of this raw edge up here. I think that it'll add some cohesiveness to it. The other thing we're going to do is let's cover this. That little frog is cute, but let's, even though, you know, that kind of matches, I love the edge here. I love this like canvas tape that they have on here. But let's go ahead and cover this as well and make it look pretty. So I will be back and we will do that. I went ahead and pulled out this paper as well, and I cornered all of the edges on this little booklet. I'm going to leave the back in this green because I think that the green coordinates pretty nicely, but I'm going to add this on top here. I think the easiest way is for us to just trace it out, or actually maybe the easiest way is to add, we're going to glue it down on here and then we'll cut it out around the edges. And the reason that I didn't clip my edge or my corners here is because I think it'll be easier to just do that with the paper all in one swoop, and that way it matches perfectly. I want to make sure that I get my glue as close to the edge as possible. And you could definitely use a wet glue here. I'm going to pull it a little bit from those edges so that it doesn't gunk up my corner rounder. Look how pretty that is with the little edge there. So now we can just cut. And look at how precious that is. That's so cute. Now with these notebooks, with the Japanese, Korean, and I think like maybe Vietnamese notebooks, like I said, the paper is just so nice. This one's not as nice as the campus, but this one's definitely way better than just regular copy paper. It's like just so smooth. But we can find our center because it is stitched in. And then we can find the center on this one because it's stitched in as well. With this one's stapled, but again, we can find our center pretty easily. I'm just going to leave that there. And I'm going to decide which one of my booklets goes first. I think even though I want to see this one first, I think we're going to put this one first because this is going to be my kind of to-do list. Yeah, I'll do that. So this is going to go in my first set of strings. Then I'm going to, I think I'll skip the last set. We'll go with our second, and then this is at the so funny, the difference. And you can see here that these fit nicely because our string is, you've got some clearance here on the string on the top and the bottom, whereas this one, you can see here how it's scrunching up. That's because it's too small for this. Oh, you know what? I think, did I get my, no. I'm going to try to put it to the back and see if maybe that works better. And I think that does somehow work a little bit better. So we're going to leave this here. And now the other thing I wanted to make is I do want to make a folder, but I think I'm going to keep this because it's pretty, but I'm going to switch it to this side. Before I had it on the black and white, what is this, buffalo print or gingham? I don't know. And so now I think I'm going to, actually let's wrap it here. Oh, it might be too big. We'll see. I think that works. And that's so pretty how it cascades like this just naturally, and we can see all of our patterns. I do want to make a folder that's going to go in here, and for that I will use my little template, and I'm also going to grab a piece of some manila cardstock and then we'll cover it. I went ahead and grabbed a piece of manila colored cardstock, and I'm going to mark it at 7 inches. 7 1/4. And I think, so I can either put it here, so we have a folder here, or I could put it here, or I can put it here. I think I'm going to end up wrapping this book in it. Oh, I have an extra thing, so I'm going to actually add it here. And so I think I'll make it a little bit bigger. So we'll go, instead of 7 1/4, I'm going to go to 7 1/2. So not that much of a difference, but it will be a difference. So 7 1/2. Okay, and then here we're going to measure down. Let's do 5 1/4. And I'm going to mark 5 1/2 too. So I think we're going to go with the 5 1/2 measurement. So I'm just going to lay my ruler on the edge here. And then I'm going to fold it in half, and we're starting to get a little bulky because we have those pockets. So I want it to be kind of slow and controlled when I'm folding this if I don't want to wreck my paper. Okay. And I think that that's good. I'm definitely going to round the edges on this, but I'll wait until we are ready to cover it. Now on this, I do want to, I think what we're going to do is I'm going to cut it in half for now, but we're going to cut some of that bulk out, but I'm going to do it the same way that I did the cover. So we're going to cover this first, and then we're going to cut notches. So we're going to cut from the center here up to whatever. And if you want to, you can measure out, let's say 1 inch. And then on this side, 1 inch. And then you would just take your ruler and line up from the bottom edge to your mark it and cut it. But we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna cover this first and then I'll do that. We have two options here when we're decorating. One is to cut each side separately and then glue it on, or we can glue the whole thing on and then fold it in the center. So this is going to be here and this is going to be here, and I think that's so cute. So now at this point, you might be thinking, okay, well, this is all cute, but what would I even use it for? So I want to go over some ways that you can actually make a pocket notebook work for you and for your lifestyle. So we're going to start off with the organization part of it. And one of your notebooks could be a daily task planner. This could give your day some shape. It's going to narrow your focus so that you don't try to hold everything in your head. I think this would be best for anyone who feels scattered or overwhelmed by all of the moving parts that we have going on in our lives. The next one is kind of the polar opposite, and that is a brain dump section where there is absolutely no structure, no pressure. You just start to unload everything in these little notebooks. It helps to clear the mental clutter that you might have, and because there's no structure and no pressure, it's really a fun type of way to organize. The next idea is an idea capture notebook. And I really love this one because, as someone who is a creative and has ideas come up, sometimes I write it down on my notes on my phone. I have a notebook in my room, and an idea capture notebook would be perfect because it could be a place where all of my thoughts live before they disappear, before they go out into the world. It's a very quick, messy, unfiltered way to jot down all of those ideas that you have. And this isn't just for creative, it's for business builders as well, or anyone who doesn't want to lose a good idea. A scripture notebook is a beautiful and quiet space for reflection. It allows you to slow down and get grounded in the Word of God. It's a perfect place to write down God's words and to reflect on them. Speaking of clearing your mind, a gratitude notebook is one of my favorite things. I am a avid believer that it is very important to give thanks to God. And I think that when you begin to do that, you start to shift your attention and you start to train your mind to notice the beauty around you, the wonderful things that are all around. And I've talked to my kids about this. It sometimes is hard when you first start, especially if you're going through trials and maybe you're going through a hard time. It is hard to look at what you can be grateful for because your brain keeps showing you the things that you are missing or the things that are hardships. And instead, when we focus like this, it does teach us to keep looking for those things. Maybe it is the sky with beautiful clouds and the sun peeking through. It can just start off as one thing. And what I can tell you from personal experiences, once you start focusing on that, then you start noticing more things that you're grateful for. And I feel like every day it kind of starts multiplying. When you have those stressful or uncertain seasons of your life, it can really change the way that you start to see things. And I believe that this is the way that God wants us to live. I think another notebook, which I think I've shown on this channel before, it's a collage notebook. And that really has no rules, whether you want it to be a glue book style, if you want it to be mixed media style, if you want it to just be a mix hodgepodge of all of the things. It's just a place where you can layer really beautiful things. You can experiment and create something that is visually satisfying, whether you only have 5 minutes or you have 50 minutes. You can spend as much time as you want, and it's an instant gratification, especially if you're working with a pocket-sized journal, because it's so much smaller and the notebooks don't have a ton of pages. So you don't feel that um, the tightness of having to fill out 100 pages. You can make them as small as you want. And I think this is a great way to show your expression instead of focusing on perfection. Okay, so we have our little booklet set up, and look at how adorable this is already looking. I love this, and I thought we'd go ahead and start building some of the side pieces. So I'm going to start off with this. So one of the things that I absolutely love to use, and you've probably, if you've been on my channel, you've seen me use it over and over again, it's masking tape. And this can be not just masking tape, you can do different types of tape. I'm going to stick this here for now. And then on the inside of this, I'm going to add just little pieces of masking tape. And you could do washi tape. We can actually add some of our Tim Holtz tape in. Let me grab it. I have a few of these tapes laying around. And actually with the Tim Holtz tape, because it's got this paper on the underside, I'm actually just going to cut some. And maybe we can attach it with the what do you call it? Paper clip. So I can do this. I can fold it over. Let me think. I'm kind of thinking I might cut it. Let's see if I can fold it, and I don't know what the creases will do, although it's not that big of a deal. So let's just fold this over and lay that off to the side. I'll go ahead and do a little bit of this one as well. Some of these are tapes that I've hoarded for years, years. And so this is a great opportunity to use your supplies. That's something that I want to be very intentional on this year, of just using the pieces that bring me joy instead of letting them sit in a drawer or on a cabinet or on a shelf somewhere just collecting dust. Now this is going to add a little bit of bulk to our notebooks. And because I'm laying this on this laminate, it's not going to go anywhere. Let's say that again. Because I'm laying this down on this laminate, it's actually going to pull up easy. It's not going to get stuck there. Let's add a couple of And what's great about this is that then you can replenish this whenever you run out. We'll do one more piece of the masking tape. And now whenever I need some washi, and of course you could be more deliberate about this and use up every square inch of this, but I actually really like the way this looks, but I don't need that much tape. And then, like I said, I can always replenish it. And you have, if you make one of these, you have 4 sides to be able to stick that on. But I want to keep the florals exposed. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that manila cardstock that we had cut out. We're going to make a ruler. So I want to see if we do, I think that's 6 inches. And that's too big. So I probably want to be somewhere around here. I'm just going to mark that, but I want it to be a whole number. Okay, that's almost exactly 5 inches. So, you know the drill. We're going to mark it. And then we're going to take our ruler, and that's where we're going to add our measurements. So I want to get as close to the edge as possible, and I'm going to mark 4, 3, 2, 1. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Okay. And then I want to do the 1/4 inch as well as the 1/2 inch. Okay. So now I'm going to go in and grab a marker or a pen of some sort. I'm just going to use my fountain pen, and I'm going to decide where my marks are going to be. So I think for my full lines, I'm going to do them at, let's do about 3/4 of an inch. I think that might be good. And I'm going to draw a very light line because we're going to erase this afterwards. Okay, and then I'm going to use this to map out my like full number measurements. Okay, and so that is, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to just write right here 1 inch, 2 inches. Okay, and then I'm going to darken up. Again, if you want to measure out and do your little line to where these are going to be, you can do that as well. But I think on these, I'm just going to eyeball midpoint. You know, I want this to look pretty, but I also don't want to be so precious about it that it's going to deter me from, number one, making it, and number two, using it. This measurement looks off here. And then I'm going to do those half of that as well. And now we have a little ruler. And you could always also, if you wanted to use like centimeters, put that on this side. Now I'm going to cut along the line here, and I'm going to try to get as close to the line as possible. And then if I wanted to, I could eventually laminate this to make it sturdier. But again, all those things kind of cause more hesitation of creation. And I think I kind of like the pencil line there that goes down. So I'm just going to leave that. And then I'm going to tuck this in here. And now I have a ruler. How cute is that? And this could also be used if you carry this with you all the time, which is kind of the design of this, that you can stick this in your purse, and then if you have an idea, you can jot it down. If you need to add something to your calendar, to your to-do list, then you can add it at that point. So this also goes in handy because even though it's only 5 inches, you could use this to measure something that's bigger, you know? So for example, if I had this book and I was trying to measure it to find out if it was going to fit on my desk or whatever, so I know that's 5 inches. And then I would say it was, 8 and about 1/4 inch. So it's not, exact, but it will get you close enough. So let's add our washi, or our fabric tape back here. The next thing that we're going to add is, I'm going to make some bookmarks. I'm going to see if I can get both of these on one. I think I can. Maybe. Center that. And that looks cute as it is. And then you can add anything here. If you have, let's say, ephemera, you could even make a little cluster if you're a creative that you want to use in your journals or whatever. You can add pieces here. You can add, if that was by itself, you could add that there. I think this is a little too wide, but oops, I don't know what I did there. But you could, you know, add something that's decorative so that it looks pretty. But you can also leave it functional and not add anything at all. And so now the last thing we're going to make is going to be some bookmarks. And actually, before we do that, I do like the idea of having some paper here. And so what I would say is use paper here. You don't want to bulk this up too much. So I'm going to go with, remember the paper that we cut, that was the other piece of this notebook. So I'm just going to grab a few sheets. And I'm going to use those. And I'm also going to grab one of my favorite things, note cards. And if I wanted my ruler sticking out a little bit, I could stick it out like that. I could also there we go. And again, this could be decorative. Oh, and I wanted to let you know one other thing. So we made this little template for our notebook, and so that is something that you can definitely stick in the back. You don't have to have it here, but that way you always know where it's at, and then you won't lose it. And the last thing we're going to do is a bookmark. Now, the bookmark I am going to make using some cardstock because I think it'll be heftier. And so for the bookmarks, you can have as many bookmarks as you want. So you could do one for each of your books to keep you in line. I think I'm just going to make one today. And, you know, I think that no, this is too short. So I need something that's a little bit bigger than this. I'm going to grab another piece of the cardstock. And I'm just going to measure about how long I want this and about how wide. So you have a couple of options here. If you wanted to, you could make this so that it extends here and maybe it's a tab, which I really like the idea of that. You know, I love tabs. So let's go somewhere here. And then I'm going to extend it just a little bit longer. And we'll start with that and then go from there. I think that that is perfect. I'm going to cover this with some pattern paper, of course. You could leave it blank though, because I think it would look like a manila. Actually, let's leave it blank. So what I'm going to do here, I think the easiest way to do this is I'm going to center the cardstock in my little booklet, and then I'm going to use this as my guide. So I'm going to do a very light line, and then I'm going to go ahead and go all the way across because we can erase this. Okay. And then I'm going to decide if I want my tab to be in the center, if I want it to be at the bottom, if I want it to be at the top. And I like the idea of the center, so I'm just going to go in and just hand dry it. That's it. I'm just going to start it like with a little squiggly. And you can make this as wide as you want. And now we're going to cut, and then we're going to go up. And then we can round these edges. You could also do this if you wanted to name your journals so that you remember what they are. You could make these, and I would make one as a template and then have more. So you would make, one for this book, one for this book, and then one for our back book. You'd have to make that one bigger. And then you can have it. So for example, if I was using this for finances, I could label it as finances here. Or if you wanted to use this for your planner, whatever you want to use it for, and then you can label it. I think I'm going to leave it as is. I would maybe in the future put some kind of alpha on here, like maybe just like a letter A or maybe an I on there, just to give it like kind of more of a I don't know, industrial look. I don't think that's the word I'm looking for, but utilitarian maybe. And then we have our back pocket, and again, we can fill this with a lot of different things. I think we're gonna leave it blank for today because I don't really need anything else in here. But now you've seen, we made our little booklet. We still have tons of room to grow. This is a good size. It feels good in my hands. It just feels nice. I don't feel like it's overdone. Some of you may be looking at this and think like that is too much for me. And maybe you can go a little bit more minimal. We could still add some paper clips, and we can add some tassels. We can add charms on the edges. We can add all sorts of things. And so if this is something that you're interested in, make sure that you stay tuned for more videos like this coming out soon. And we're going to be working on this together. Also, mine comes with a little loop, and so I can stick my pencil in here if I wanted to, like this. Or you can actually just stick it on the inside. You have a chance of it falling out, but it kind of sits pretty snugly in there. And then you can also put a pen or a pencil in here depending on how thick it is. And if your pen is too thick, like this is kind of snug for this, you could do it like I did before, where you're just looping the whatever this thing is called of the pen, and then you can put it inside of the elastic so that it stays put. I find that sometimes the pen like this, it's a little cumbersome, but I think it works too, and then you have it in its set place. So I want to thank you so much for being here, for watching, for maybe delving into this new idea for you, or if you are not new to pocket notebooks, I hope that it was informative and that you maybe learned something that you hadn't seen before. And I want to remind you today, in case you haven't been told today, you are beautiful. You deserve to be heard and have a voice, and you are loved unconditionally. Until we see each other next time, love you. Bye.